Welcome, heathens and witches, to the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast pub chat. This time it's the pub chat. I'm John Norgrove. This is Julie Norgrove, and this is our witchy podcast, but pub chat. So like chill boy, lightweight style.
Yeah.
If you're, let me just get this stuff out of the way. If you're on YouTube, I almost said Netflix. I think I'm having a stroke. If you're on Netflix.
If you're on Netflix, we're not there.
How?
So
Who stole this? No, if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and do all that kind of stuff. If you are listening to this on your podcast network of choice, please leave us a review. That's the only way we can know. And like I say every single time, because there's no way in hell that I can figure out podcast analytics, I think it requires a level of shaman that I haven't attained. I'm like silver and I need to be like platinum, so I need to sell more magazines to get that shit. Or whatever
maybe
the Ponzi scheme is. That is podcast analytics, because let me tell you what, does it feel like a fun Ponzi scheme? So, and of course, if you're on one, we're on the other also. So if you want to see our faces, gangster, check that out. And if you don't want to see our faces, understandable. No, look at our faces. Occasionally you get to see a dog's butt, because that's a dog's butt right there. The front part is behind me. The butt part is available.
That's a little.
That's a dog butt. Booty. That is not a little booty. He is a huge fucking dog.
Yeah, it's a huge
that's a huge butt.
That's like a 90-pound booty.
Yeah, that's a huge old butt. But so either way, today we are talking about magical home protection stuff. And we're continuing the story of Gerald Gardner and Raymond Howard, the Tiger King of fucking magic, which is just, it's insane. I don't know any of this stuff going into it. She's the one that did the research. She does all the research for these. I'm just the talking head. And this is very interesting, and I can't wait to hear what's happening next. And then at the end of it, we've got magic in media and some channel update sort of info, so follow along for that stuff, and let's get right into it. Our listener
I thought I spelled it wrong for a second.
No. This is the thing. I didn't even look at what you had written, so it could have been spelled wrong. I said it wrong and then looked at it and was just like confident, even though my brain said no.
It's a new.
I need to drink more. Is what that is, guys.
Usually, I'm the one with all the tongue tie.
I'm so sober right now. What am I gonna do? So the listener question was, what are some good ways to?
It's a weeknight
party. What are some good ways to magically protect the home?
So this is a super great question, and it fills me with like a ton of ideas of things I want to do for us. So I've just got kind of like a list of things that you can do. So you can make a protection bottle or sachet. Usually these kinds of things are filled with herbs and stones and other things that are associated with protection.
Yeah.
You can also have plants inside.
Suspend a 55-pound bag of salt. Just get in here, bro. Risk it. You could. The salt's gonna fall.
You could. Like suspending a
Looney Tune. No. Like precariously on top of a door frame. So when a demon opens the door, 55-pound bag of salt. Or I guess when anybody opens your door, because that shit gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Sort of regardless.
Yeah. Maybe not.
Maybe don't do that.
Maybe don't do that.
Unless you got a ton of demons, then maybe do that. Just put it out there. Yeah.
You can also have plants either inside or outside, like planted around your home, that are associated with protection.
Yeah.
We happen to be pretty lucky in that we live in a forest, and in this forest, everything is covered with ivy, and ivy is a protection plant. Yeah. So our whole area.
If you're going to have ivy, I don't care where you are, what kind of ivy you're talking about, or who you talk to about this, put it in a friggin' pot.
Don't put it in the ground.
And don't let it touch the ground. Hang that shit in the sky. Because
let it be on
ivy is just
incredibly invasive.
The most invasive shit ever. Right? Ivy is not even the natural thing here. When we clear ivy out, wood sorrel returns, and it's like beautiful.
And like
ferns and shit. But yeah, we have a lot of ivy around here. We bought the house that way, and we're like fighting the ivy back. And it's definitely not a winning war. It's a war of attrition, and we grow older, and ivy only grows stronger.
Yeah.
So don't plant ivy in the ground. Ivy and bamboo. great plants. Keep them in pots. Don't let them touch the ground.
Same thing for mint.
Yeah, same thing for mint. Yeah, that's fair.
Also mint. So yeah, you could do plants inside or around the home. You could also do a Brigid's Cross over the door or over the hearth. We actually just talked about that in the last full episode, which was Imbolc 102. You can also have like art or wall hangings or sculptures associated with protection, like evil eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
If you have an altar, you can have an effigy for your house deity, your patron deity, or any ancestors. If you're wondering what a house deity is, that's sort of like an older custom, where basically people would be like, there's a spirit in the house, we're gonna give it a name and we're gonna leave it butter, so it's nice to us. Yeah, totally. Yeah. You can also cleanse regularly with light, sound, smoke, water, or a 55-pound bag of salt. Yeah. Suspended over your door.
Cleansed.
Yeah.
With salt.
There are some people that I've seen that just like sort of put a line of salt by their door.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, that's super common. It also theoretically would keep bugs out.
Yeah.
So there's also that. But then again, you might track salt in and then have like stepping on salt would probably hurt because it's tiny rocks.
Yeah, or like, I don't know, dry out your feet if you're barefoot. We're barefoot pretty much all the time at home. So
vacuum more.
Yeah.
That's a secret there.
It's not so bad because we have carpet. If we had wood floors.
We have carpet and we have like battery powered stick vac. Let me tell you what, the secret to keeping your house way cleaner than the way that you're currently keeping it is don't have a regular traditional vacuum. Have a battery operated stick vac.
Yeah.
And this is like no sponsor. This is just like legit. We have gone through a ton of them. We spent a fortune on a Dyson and that thing was like okay, but it wore out super fucking fast and the batteries aren't crazy stable. And you can't get replacement parts for it, so you just have to buy a new one, and that's bootios. But so we bought like a cheap stick vac from Ryobi, which is the brand of power tools that I use. If you've ever seen any of the videos where I use like power tools in it or whatever, there's some in there.
They're the fluorescent green.
But they're the fluorescent green brand, and they have like $120 stick vac, like West Coast US prices, and it's fucking great. I already have a ton of Ryobi batteries, and it's like, it's got a good enough size volume container that you can just like kind of spot clean anytime you see a little bit of a mess. And on the weekend, one battery will last you through like our whole house cleaning. So it's like, it's great for keeping everything like below the threshold of you being like,
totally.
What are those dust bunnies trying to break into the house right now? What is this, some little people going on? So yeah, definitely. And as a general thing, right, there's also, like, you can clean with light, you can clean with sound, you can clean with smoke. You can also just make the ritual of cleaning be the protective thing, right?
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need to always do additive magic. You can also just do, like, symbolic magic.
Yep.
So, yeah, take those into consideration.
Yeah, that's a really great point, too. You can also strike a bargain with your local fae folk, as we did. They protect the house and we protect the land, and in exchange they give us shiny trinkets and gifts, and we give them
such weird stuff,
candy and other offerings. So and sometimes an axe here or there. The force giveth and the force taketh away. You can also have wards or sigils or runes up on your house. We actually have some on the 4x4 that's like the entrance to the house.
The primary like foremost post to come into the entrance, like on the outside of the house in our covered patio. I did a bunch of like sigil work on. One that you don't have written down on this, but falls under like sigils and wards and like stuff, is a horseshoe.
Oh yeah,
because iron is protective material. So like a very common thing would be like an iron horseshoe above a door, or like near an entrance, which is like our house came with a horseshoe.
Our house came with
house came with a horseshoe. I was just like, I didn't get that horseshoe. That horseshoe just happened.
It was just like in the random stuff.
Again, we find things. This is a weird old forest.
It's a weird old house.
But so that's hung above my sigil work on the like prime post. For the entrance for the house. So like you could also do something like that if you find like a local farrier, I think is the name of a person who does horseshoeing. I don't actually know where you would get like a real horseshoe.
I have no idea.
But yeah, I don't know. We live in California, so like we know people with horses.
Yeah. It's probably
So if I
not
needed to
even
get a
on.
horseshoe, like I could just get a horseshoe.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. You could probably ask like a local feed store.
Yeah, or like a
To
blacksmith if you have like a local smith.
blacksmith.
You know? Then you could have him like do a nice like fancy looking horseshoe or some shit. So that'd be tight.
Yeah, that would be super cool. We also in episode 8, which was Ostara 101 last year, we talked about using protection eggs, which are eggs that have been like 2 holes poked in them and you blow out the contents.
Yeah, so check
and
that
then,
out. Episode
you
8.
decorate those. Yeah, so we've
Yep.
got info on that there, and you can also we have a whole episode on protection magic.
Yep.
Episode 12,
Yep.
Intro to
So
protection magic.
check that one
There's a bunch
out.
of stuff.
Yeah, and
As
if
well
you
as
are
correspondences.
yeah, if you are on our Patreon, or you're thinking about it, and protection magic is a thing that you're into, then we have Book of Shadows pages for the protection magic, and I'm working on the Book of Shadows page literally right now. I'm like halfway through it. I have the first half of the page, the front half of the page done, and I'm gonna finish the back half probably late tonight for Ostara 102. But yeah, so you can get our Book of Shadows pages on our Patreon. So check that out. We're Nerd Jive on Patreon.
Yeah.
Tiny
Yeah.
commercial. All right, so next up is the
Is the Tiger King Wicca.
weird story of Raymond Howard.
Yeah, so in episode 30, Book of Shadows, we talked briefly about Charles Cordell and Gerald Gardner, who's the father of Wicca.
Modern Wicca, yeah.
And in the last pub chat, I talked about Charles Cordell because it is a straight up Tiger King story. So I'm not really going to re-go over that. We're just going to move on to part 2 of this story. So if you're interested in hearing more, listen to our previous episode of Pub Chat. So today we're talking about Raymond Howard. So Raymond Howard worked as a handyman for Charles Cordell and was just like generally their friend. And he had a falling out with him.
Tony Stark's dad's name, Raymond Howard Stark?
I don't know.
I'm gonna look that up. I think that's what that is.
I think it's just Howard Stark.
Is it just Howard Stark?
I think
I
it's
thought
just
he had
Howard.
a third name.
No, I don't think so. But I could be wrong. So Raymond Howard worked as a handyman for Charles Cordell and had a falling out with them. And it was mostly because Raymond Howard divorced his wife, and Mary Cordell, Charles Cordell's fake sister, provided evidence against Raymond Howard in the divorce. So he definitely had a bone to pick with them still. So he helped a journalist from the London Evening News spy on one of Cordell's magical rituals. And these pictures and the story ended up in the London Evening News, and the Cordells ended up suing the London Evening News for defamation.
Oh, that's crazy.
During this time, Cordell allegedly sent Raymond Howard a mirror with an effigy that had been stabbed. So Howard sued Cordell because he figured it was from him.
A mirror with an effigy that had been stabbed, like through the glass of the mirror?
I think that it was probably 2 separate things. Like it came in the mail and it was like a mirror and like a voodoo doll that had been stabbed or something is my
That probably
guess.
makes a bit more sense, yeah.
Yeah. I'm using the terms that I found out there.
Sure.
So Howard went on to create correspondence courses after all of that for his own variant of Wicca, which is called the Coven of Atho. And if you remember, Cordell also worshipped Atho. So they kind of did it together and then split off into essentially
by the powers
factions.
combined. Fuck Gerald Gardner. I think was their Captain Planet moment.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. So Howard blended elements of Cordell's and Gardner's Wicca traditions with other books, some of those fictional, to create his own correspondence course. And this was like in the 60s and 70s. So you
Correspondence courses were so hot back then.
Yeah. So you would
so hot
basically
back
like
then.
write a letter and you just like create a course for this sort of thing. And he had, he had like hierarchy and stuff like that. And Doreen Valiente actually ended up reaching a rank in his little coven of Atho. And later on, I'm assuming that probably fizzled out. And he just ended up running an antique shop where Howard displayed the head of Atho. The one that went missing later. And the one that Cordell claimed was thousands of years old.
Witches and wizards retiring from witchcraft and wizardry to run an antique shop is the base plot or setting for about 5,000 movies, TV shows, and books that, like, I've personally consumed. You know what I'm saying? Like, geez, man.
Totally.
Was this guy a Highlander? Like,
A bit. I mean,
Was
who
he an Iron
knows?
Druid?
I actually
he-
couldn't even figure out like when this guy was born or when he died.
Not even a real ass person.
So
That's what
I
I'm
don't
hearing.
know.
Don't trust this pretend ass wizard.
Yeah,
He's a
now I do
vampire.
want to note
He's a
that in the
vampire.
last pub chat, I said it was Cordell's son who said that his dad carved the head of Atho, and I was incorrect. So it was actually Howard's son who said after his dad died that his dad carved the head of Atho. But Howard displayed the head of Atho there, and it's like pretty wild. You can Google it and like take a look at pictures. It was carved in like the 60s, but he said it dated back like 2,200 years. So Howard told Doreen Valiente, the mother of modern Wicca, in like 1930. He was playing by a roadside pond on the summer solstice, and an older Romani gypsy woman took an interest in him and decided to teach him witchcraft. Apparently, things went so well, she liked him so much or whatever, that she left him a bunch of magical artifacts in her will, including a deed box that contained teeth, nail clippings, old parchments, as well as the head of Atho. He told other people different stories about how he came upon it, like it had been in his family for generations or whatever. And then a historian later said that there was no way of investigating his stories, but Howard was not a reliable source. Like,
well, I mean,
spicy historians.
I mean, that sounds like the plot of one of them gotcha ghost hunter sort of shows, you know, that are like putting on airs.
Yeah.
Or like one of those horror movies where come to find out it's not a haunting, but it's just a regular ass murderer.
It's very Scooby-Doo.
You know what I'm saying? It's very Scooby-Doo. Yeah.
Scooby-Doo.
It's very like if it weren't for you dang kids and you silly fucking Wicca, I would have got away with it.
Yeah. So in 1967, the head of Atho disappeared, and we don't know what happened to it, but it is assumed that it was stolen and then buried.
Yeah.
And the accounts here vary. Either Howard stole it from Cordell, or Cordell stole it from Howard, or maybe something else entirely happened. But either way, it no longer exists. So that is the story of Raymond Howard, Wicca Tiger King Part 2.
That's pretty ridiculous. How long? Okay, so the head was stolen in the 60s. When did Howard die?
I don't know.
Mr. Howard? Okay.
Yeah, I could.
That sounds
not
like some picture of
find.
Dorian Gray shit, where this guy's just like, look at this head that I got, but secretly it's his real head, and the head that we're seeing is just some sort of magical projection or whatever the fuck.
I mean,
like he's a fucking Doulahan or something.
It was pretty.
Also, we should put those on the list. Doulahans. Those are crazy.
Oh yeah, it was pretty.
Doulahan,
it was
whatever.
pretty like intricately carved too.
Yeah.
There was like a spot that you could use as like an offering bowl, and if you put like a candle, the eyes would light up, and there was like astrological symbols on it, and all kinds of stuff.
It's a classy head. Yeah, it's a classy head.
Yeah. So this is really only the first two parts of basically what I'm gonna call Tiger King Wicca. There is more parts to this story.
Well, this shit's just gonna keep happening until we find a new crazy series of stories to tell over these pub chats, because this is the perfect interstitial space in these pub chats. So
next time,
Raymond Howard is part 2 of Tiger King Wicca. TM, man, maybe after I don't want to say this because then I'm gonna have to do the work, but maybe after we've recorded all of the Tiger King of Wicca parts, I cut them out into one like oblong YouTube video, and then we transition to the next weird magical thing, because I'm pretty certain that we could probably cover like 20 episodes of pub chat with just like the nonsense of Aleister Crowley.
Yes.
Aleister Crowley, arguably the craziest magician England ever had.
Yeah.
And they had Merlin, so, you know, fucking cope with that shit.
So next time we'll talk about Gerald Gardner himself. Because there are also some pretty wild things associated with him, especially
and this is also
later in his life.
is also like based on the research that we have, right? Like we don't know these people. And if there's like some misinformation, if you have heard something different or more about these things, share that shit with us, because I want to know more about these people. And if you're practicing Wiccan or Atholian, whatever that word is, Athoan, What's somebody who practices the worship of Atha?
I don't remember.
Atheist?
There was a word for it, and I don't remember.
Whatever. If you're whatever that is, one, tell us what it's called, please. And then two, tell us what your opinion on these stories is. Because I would love to, like, I don't really know any like, practicing Wicca TM Wiccans. Like, I know people who practice, like, the vague reincarnation of Wiccantry, but, like, it's never very specific, you know, like Wicca TM, Gerald Gardner Wicca. So I would love to hear your opinion. So please comment below or, like, hit us up on social. That'd be super interesting. What would be great to finish this off, and I don't know how the hell I would ever organize this, would be to interview somebody who's Wiccan.
Well, we would have to find somebody specifically who practices Gardnerian witchcraft.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Wicca,
like Gardner TM Wicca.
Yeah,
like,
so
that'd be tight.
So next chapter.
So if you know somebody, hook it up, bro.
Yeah, next chapter we'll be talking about Gerald Gardner
himself. Nice.
The dude. He was
dude.
He was like an avid nudist.
It's like the third time I've heard about a magic man being naked all the time. So
yeah, we had a pretty interesting conversation about Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, speaking of Aleister Crowley,
last night.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was part 2.
Yeah, that was part 2
of that, and then the last thing that we have to cover is magic in media. Yep. So before we get into magic in media, I'm gonna give a little shout out to our patrons: Alan, Miranda, Alexa, Helena, and Jeff. What? You guys are awesome. This is how we have, like, cameras and, like, lights, and we're able to continuously improve that. We just got a GoPro for improving, like, video and being able to do stuff. We'll see how it turns out. I'm still deciding on what system is better to work with for very particular tasks. But I was able to record my Friday night pint night with the GoPro, and that turned out, like, way better than I expected. So, like, check that shit out.
But the support helps us to do what we do better every time.
Yeah, 100%.
And those,
100%.
like,
you guys are the
3
best.
of you that have been here since the beginning, I'm sure you can definitely see the evolution of our episodes and our podcast as we move along.
Making it better.
Better every time.
Yeah. Okay, so, magic in media.
Yeah.
So, we've got a couple of things to go over. First of all, we will be doing some drunk anime, like, anime reaction review sort of things coming up. So stay tuned for some of those. Those are all specifically focused on, like, magic anime stuff. Because this is all the prep work for the Magic in Anime podcast that we're doing at the end of May.
Beginning of June,
end of May, which is when that podcast is scheduled. And we're, like, trying to get a panel together for some stuff around that time in Northern California. So, like...
So you might even be able to see us in person.
Yeah, you might be able to see us in person if you're at that particular event. And as more details come out, we'll be able to talk about that more if we're able to get in on that. As well as the video is going to be completely different. Everything's going to be way awesome. So I'm real excited about that, you know, if we can get there. When did we watch these? Saturday night?
Yes.
Yeah, Saturday night, we decided, just like, when did we watch this stuff? Yeah, Saturday night, we were just like, what do we got to put on? It's way earlier than we expected. Like, we got everything accomplished faster than we expected. So first we put on Stargate, and technically Stargate doesn't have any magic in it. But what it does have is that ancient aliens, fucking crazy hair guy thing, where it's just like, it's not magic Egyptian shit. It's that, you know, the sun god Ra was just like a glowy blue alien who inhabited like a boy child.
Yeah.
Or whatever the hell that is.
It was just an alien.
Yeah.
Jumping bodies.
Who has, like, vague magic powers and, like, cope with that. So there's that. Not really magic, but, like, a little bit of magic because his science doesn't make a lot of sense.
Also, it's a great movie.
Oh my god, yeah. It's the fucking best. Yes. I love that fucking movie.
Yeah.
So we watched that. We also watched this Mila Jovovich bloody... What was that movie called?
I don't remember.
You look it up. Okay. So we also watched another one. I'll talk about that one. So the main one that we watched, magically speaking, was we watched Bright. We rewatched Bright. Bright is starring Will Smith. It's set in the modern age, but the movie is basically like LAPD Will Smith, and it's set in the modern age, but there's like orcs and elves and fairies and stuff. Oh yeah, the movie that I was thinking of is Paradise Hill. So it's like so Bright is like orcs and elves and like fairies and humans and stuff, and like there's magic and all this. I mean the movie's clearly doing this like fairies and the non-humans represent like the speciesism of the movie is like a direct homage to the like implicit racism in like big cities and in police and in the way the police interact with different races based on their socioeconomic positions and things like that. I think Bright is a fucking fantastic movie.
Absolutely.
I know that when it came out there was like some hate, but I really enjoy. I don't actually remember if the first time I watched it I liked it. I'm pretty certain I did, but like who knows. But I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy the magic system that they hint at, because they fucking barely give you anything in this. But specifically, the thing in these that I enjoy is the fact that the wands are these like nightmare fuel things.
Yeah.
A wand isn't like, look at this pretty stick, this stick is my stick, or whatever.
Yeah.
The wand is this like extra dimensional, like vibrates reality fucking nightmare energy source.
Yeah.
That like if you touch it and you're not in this movie a bright, so like a practitioner of wand magic, that shit just turns you into powder and blood. So that don't touch that, right? Which is awesome. But it's like you know how it corrupts people. Like even to look upon it is to like immediately corrupt the human mind.
Yeah.
Of just like if we had this, like we could have $10 million, or we could have everything that we wanted, or whatever. It's just like because of the like infinite power of it. It's nice because Bright does what a lot of shows are, in my opinion, like too afraid to do, and I'm not saying that in like a derogatory way, but it's like Bright shows the like drug addiction side of high magic.
Yeah.
How like magic is like addictive, and how like this thing that solves your problems is what draws you so heavily towards it, and how at the same time Will Smith is like the perfect example of somebody who just like doesn't care. He's like, yeah, my life's kind of shit. Yeah, I got to deal with all this drama. But
yeah.
fucking waving a glowy stick that vibrates reality and turns people into powder is not going to solve that shit. Like, who cares? Get over it. Do your job. Like, it's such a good movie. If you have not seen it, or you haven't seen it in a long time because you only saw it like when it first came out or whatever, rewatch Bright. It really holds up. It is good.
It does.
The CGI is fantastic. The graphics are fantastic. The magic in it is fantastic. And it's a really fun movie. Like, I really enjoy it. Will Smith, just Will Smithing him out in, like, magical powers, fantasy, modern-day Los Angeles. It's fucking solid gold. Yeah. Right? A super great movie. So this other one that we watched, just real quick, was Paradise Hill. You don't need to watch it. It makes no sense. I don't really understand what's going on.
It was weird and dumb.
Maybe there's no magic in it, but technically Mila Jovovich's character had the ability to drink blood and control plants, but those plants might have been robots, and the whole thing might have been an AI, and it's never really made super clear. But she's basically like magical Poison Ivy insofar as Poison Ivy with just like slightly more magic becomes a vampire.
It's it's got like a very cottagecore look. So it's very pretty to
like
watch.
Stylish. Well, it's got a lot of style. I would argue that like everything has so much like bloom and saturation that it's actually a little like it hurts your eyes a little bit to watch, right? You're just like, ah! And a lot of the rooms are just like, this is the pink room. And you're just like, nah, that's a real gross color. And I like pink, and that's a gross pink. Like, take it down a couple notches, you know? But, so those were the movies that we watched, like, recently that involve magic. And then stay tuned for the first anime that we finished yesterday was Record of Ragnarok. And boy, do we have opinions about that. That is an anime available on Netflix. No connection to them, but that's an anime available on Netflix that we choose for a very specific purpose. And let me tell you what, chef's kiss. It was the right purpose. Because we got words. So stay tuned for that video. That's going to be coming out sometime soon. Mostly so that way we can get it out of the way, so that way we can start watching the next anime, because we've got a bunch of anime to watch. All of them I've seen before, except actually only for this one. Yeah. This is the only one that I had not seen before because it's a newer one. Yeah. Which is why I wanted to start with it, is kind of get it out of the way. But yeah, so stay tuned for that stuff. And the next podcast episode number 32, which comes out February 14th. Is that Valentine's Day?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Valentine's Day's a silly holiday.
We don't really celebrate.
We don't really celebrate Valentine's Day. It's so weird, man, and it's very.
We usually get hot wings and watch horror movies.
Yeah,
but like honestly,
Valentine's Day. Well,
could be a Tuesday
we
for
just
us.
watched My Bloody Valentine both sometimes.
Yeah.
The original and the remake, because they're both good.
Yeah.
We have the original. We have the reprint of the original soundtrack on vinyl for the original. It is like amazing. And the remake from the early 2000s was like one of those like really good early 2000s remake horror movies, because there were a bunch that weren't.
Very good. I think it's better than the original movie.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I like the original a bunch, but I really love that like weird
3D.
campy 60s, 70s horror stuff.
I mean, I do too, but I like the newer version, and I even like it in 3D.
Yeah. It's the newer version is good, and the actor's really banging out of the park on that one. The main dude does a fantastic job. So I get it. But so the next podcast coming out on Valentine's is Love Magic and Hand Fasting.
Yeah.
At the request, I almost said behest. And then I tried to correct myself and I said bequest. And bequest is definitely probably not a word. So at the request of our patron Miranda. So that's the other benefit of joining the Patreon, is that one, we answer your questions in these, but two, when we talk to you about stuff, often we change our plans to cover a thing that actually makes more sense than whatever the plan is that we had. Because like we planned out the whole year at the beginning of the year, and there have already been like 5 changes, and we're only done with one month.
And when people ask us to cover something specifically, we really try hard to cover that thing specifically.
Yeah.
And if we can't, we usually talk about it in Discord, or if you are of the appropriate level in our Patreon,
if you're at
we have like a weekly
tier,
hangout.
Yeah, monthly. We have a monthly hangout, and then we just hang out and chit chat and cover that stuff. So, participate in that. And so either way, I've been John Norgrove. This has been Julie Norgrove. This has been The Horn
and Cauldron
Podcast Pub Chat. Yeah. So thank you for sticking around, and I don't know, whatever. Don't forget to like this video, comment below, share, subscribe, ring the bell,
leave all those things.
Leave us a thing on the podcast, whatever the heck.
Check us out on social media.
Yeah, hit us up on social media. Do all that shenanigans and share us with your friends. So that way they can also deal with whatever this is that we're doing. But we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Stay magical, folks.
Yeah, and don't forget, breathe in self-confidence, breathe out self-doubt.